using pictures from other countries as if they are happening in Ethiopia. We saw that during the war, a lot of them, disinformation and information disorder in general, comes with some kind of tale. They usually get deceived easily. People don't check or cross-check, or they don't know that disinformation exists.
Hello everyone, welcome to Arada podcast. This is Nawal and Kirwil. This is Arada podcast where we talk about social media, the internet and the whole digital world.
We are with Rehobot Ayalew today. She is here to talk with us about online mis and disinformation and what we can do about it. Welcome, Rehobot. It's nice to have you.
It's nice to be here.
Rehobot, as I always say, when I see you, I remember Nancy Ford, who was one of the first fact checker. Yeah. So I'm really proud of you, by the way.
Oh, thank you. That means a lot.
Yeah, and you are among the well-known fact checkers in our country. So let us start from the beginning.
Okay.
How did you get into fact checking?
It's kind of a coincidence, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's always easier.
Coincidence? Kind of, yeah. So I was not planning to join any media or else. I studied economics and it was during COVID and I was looking for a job. And yeah, someone recommended me for the fact-checking position. And I started it as a plan B, like until I get something, some other job or something like that. So then I loved it. Then
you got into it.
Yeah, I got into it.
It's very fascinating.
I don't think I will ever change my career.
Oh, that might become a passion.
Yeah. I mean,
okay.
Yeah, so take us through the journey. How did Rehobot become a fact checker from economics graduate to fact checker?
So as I said, it was during COVID. So there were a lot of online trainings about fact checking because it was the time that even the word infodemics started or something. The trend was about disinformation was really high at that time. So there was a lot of trainings online. Then I remember I took training by UNESCO and Africa Check, an online training for 3 days. Half-day online training for 3 days. Then I was working at Hack Check, one of the local fact-checking initiative. It was the beginning of that organization. So we took the 3 days online training. Then we were told just start doing the job. So I had to research by myself. I had to take more trainings, practice, and also I used to join every webinar, every training, anything that's about fact checking, I was there. So yeah, then time by time, I could localize it into the Ethiopian trend, and yeah.
So it's very fascinating. So like you said, you got into it by coincidence.
Yeah.
So I'm sure it must have been very hard for you when we were starting up. So what was the most challenging thing for you when you started working as a fact checker?
So even though it was a COVID time, I started fact checking during when the Northern War broke out. So the contents really shifted from we took a training about COVID, and the things we are fact checking was about war and conflict, and it was kind of new even for everyone, not only as a fact checker but for everyone. And one of the challenges were we didn't have any mentor or anyone who could go and ask some question. We have to come up with techniques. We have to come up with solution for every new problem. So there was no one to look up to, especially in Ethiopia. Even until now, even until today, there are only numbered fact checkers. So one of the difficulties was that. And in general, I was not more of a political person. I was not that much aware about the politics, but I had to be up to date in a short time. And also I have to be politically correct in everything I say, in every fact check I do. So that was also a bit challenging for me personally. But in general, the main challenge was there was no one to look up to, and we had to do every little thing by ourselves.
So you learn as you go.
Yeah. We learn by mistake, we learn by experience.
I think being among the first ones is an opportunity, and sometimes it's just a challenge, right? So how long it is since you become?
Well, 3 years and something.
All right. So what is your observation on the flow of information on social media, specifically in our country?
Well, I still have question about how many people get information, because we say that disinformation is affecting Ethiopia, or social media is influencing, impacting the people on the ground and all that, but there is only like 6 million social media user or something. And I don't know how the other population get information. It's really complicated. I mean, it needs a deep research. So I see it as an untouched kind of landscape. But one of the things I learned, especially about disinformation and all the information disorder in Ethiopia, is like it reaches the peak during conflicts or even holidays. I mean, holidays were supposed to be fun and exciting, but usually disinformation actually peaks during holidays.
It's highest? Wow.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know
what
that.
kinds of information?
I mean, let's say it's Adwa, or let's say it's Mescal or something. There is always some controversy regarding holidays or regarding the place they are celebrated on or something like that. So there is always a disinformation that comes with those incidents. And as I said, there is war and conflicts everywhere. So even when there are 2 or 3 conflicts around different parts of the country, when one of them like peaks or reach the highest point, all the information and the conversation shift to that. For example, during the northern conflict,
Ethiopian conflict.
there was a conflict in Oromia region, and also there was a cross-border conflict between Sudan. So during that time, even though there were 3
different conflicts.
So when the Sudan issue reached the peaks, all the conversation shift to that, and the conversation becomes toxic, and the information disorder fuels more. So one of the things I observed was disinformation and information disorder in general comes with some kind of tail. Like there is always a string that
the fake
comes,
information follows,
that comes with the fake information. So when there is any incident, it doesn't have to be conflict, but maybe election. Our election was not that bad comparing to the other world, because we were busy with conflicts and war. But when there is election, when there is holidays, when there is conflict, both it could be religious or ethnic or any cross-border or anything like that. So it usually reaches the peak.
And there are a lot of information online. Of course, there are a lot of good information, and as you said, on the other side, there are fake and false information. And the more we use social media, the more we consume social media, there is a high chance to come across such information. And there are a lot of people who doesn't really understand or identify the mis and disinformation. So let's start by defining what mis and disinformation is first.
So mis and disinformation are usually used exchangeably, but they have a bit of difference. So misinformation is a false information that's shared with no bad intention, or the person who's sharing that information doesn't know it is false. So usually they are deceived, or they think that it is true, but they're sharing it anyway, and it will have harm or bad impact on people. When it comes to disinformation is a false information, but it is shared knowingly by bad intention or ill intention. So the person who's sharing that information knows it's false and shares it anyways. Usually, misinformation is more dangerous because people don't know that they are spreading false information. So they will not believe you if you tell them it's false because they think it's true. So, but it's kind of a bit blurry to know whether it's disinformation or misinformation because we don't know people's intention in general. But in our case, in Ethiopian case, most of the information disorder we see are believed to be misinformation because people don't check or cross-check, or they don't know that disinformation exists on social media, so they usually get deceived easily and spread it anyways.
Okay. What about the formats?
They come in different ways. They have different formats. There are kind of 7 forms of disinformation. One of them is a joke, or it's just for fun, but it will harm, or it will have a potential to harm. So it doesn't have any intention, to be honest, but still people will get harmed sometime. That's one of them. The other one is false connection. False connection is also powerful to deceive people because usually it will have attractive headline or caption or something like that, so people usually get attracted to it and doesn't listen to the whole content or doesn't read the whole content, so they will be deceived and they will spread it anyway. So
they will just take a piece of the segment and believe that the information is true.
Usually it's the title that deceive the people. So in our case, most of our YouTube videos can be an example for that.
Like clickbait, the titles.
The titles are so sensitive, too loud, too catchy.
Exaggerated.
Even sometimes unrelated at all with the content. And when you get in the content, most people don't listen to the content, but when you listen to it, it doesn't say what it says on the title. So that's the second one. The third one is misleading content. It has a kind of true content in it, but usually it's the framing and the angle that deceives people. So it's how you frame an individual or how you frame an issue that deceives the people. Do you remember the speech of the Prime Minister?
It was in my mind.
The banana one?
Oh, the banana
one. So for misleading content, it's there was a speech where the Prime Minister said, you can eat bread with banana and you don't need any other food kind of message. But for example, he actually said that sentence. It was not edited. It came from his mouth. But the thing is, the video went viral when the price of oil increased, right? So the way
they
people
make it sound
frame
like
that, so what's wrong with eating bread and banana? It's okay, like even though the price of even though the price of oil becomes expensive, you can eat banana. He said that, but he didn't say that in that angle or sense. So that's misleading. The framing is so misleading that people believe that it's because of the expensiveness of food,
the increase in price of oil.
So that's misleading content. And manipulated contents are usually editings, photoshops, so it's altering a content. One of the example can be also the Prime Minister's speech during election. Before the election, there was a speech that was said it was leaked. So most people believed it because he was saying it was his own voice, and he was saying we already won the election and all
even
that.
Before
the election. So that speech was actually altered and edited. The sentence and the words, some of the phrases were taken from different speeches from different time and different settings. So it was hard to fact check, but it was manipulated. Manipulated contents can be in videos, it can be in photographs, it can be in audio, and every format. The other one is imposter content. It's usually called fake accounts. It's imposter content is a content that comes from impersonating accounts. Like there are accounts impersonating famous people or media or other organizations as well. So they will say that they are BBC, but they are not BBC, or they will say that they are Kirubel and they are not Kirubel. So people usually don't know whether it's the right account or not. So that's imposter content. The other one is false context. False context is giving a false narrative and contextual meaning for an information or an incident. It's kind of a bit similar with misleading content, but it's also a bit different because false context can be like using old images as if they're new or as if they're recent, using pictures from other countries as if they're happening in Ethiopia and all that. We saw that during the war, a lot of content. More than 80% of our fact check was false context. Pictures taken from old times, pictures taken from other countries that are said it's in the northern war or it's in Sudan or in Somali or whatever the issue was. The other one is fabricated content. Fabricated content is a bit different because it's 100% false and it's 100% new. There is no string attached to it. There is no context. It's just fabricate out of the blue or it just come out of the blue.
Now that you are a fact checker, you know all the types of misinformation and disinformation. We are social media users but still don't know which one is which one. And there are many people who use social media and as you mentioned, the internet is full of this fake and misleading content. So how can we differentiate the right information, the legit information from the fake one, from the misleading one?
So there are easy steps we can identify or spot disinformation that will give us red flags about an information, whether we have to dig deep or whether we have to believe it. So usually people get deceived, as we said, by just reading the headline. So the first step would be to read beyond the headline so that we are not deceived by false connection or misleading, even misleading content. So by reading the whole content, we'll have an understanding, a context. Then we will ask some questions like who published it, who is the author. It could be cross-checking with other medias or other platforms, other peoples as well. So usually in the Ethiopian context, there are two types of people. I usually say, it's my opinion, it's not researched or something. So there are people who just listen to the so-called government medias, and there are people who don't want to listen them.
Those kinds of media outlets.
And who only relies on other private medias. So that's what usually deceives us. I mean, I'm not saying the government or the other medias are true or we just have to believe them. I'm just saying we have to cross-check between them. Because we never know who is biased until we see the other side of the story or until we cross-check with them. So cross-checking other medias and even other people. The other is checking any attachments, because attachments, pictures or PDFs or videos are usually posted as an evidence for the information shared, right? So we have to cross-check whether those evidence really proves the information or whether it backs it. So as we said, it can be manipulated. As we said, it can be fabricated, because we've seen that. And also it could be old evidence. So we have to cross-check any media attachment. So in these steps, usually we will have a red flag, or
by doing these things
there will be some giveaways, whether we have to believe an information or whether we have to just take a time to dig or to analyze it. So not everything that comes from social media is true. So people have to understand that.
And be cautious.
And be critical thinkers. They have to analyze any information, whoever said that. I mean, it could be a media we trust or it could be a media we don't like. We have to analyze it anyways. So as long as people start thinking critically and analyzing the information they get before taking actions, I think we can make a difference in general.
All right. So I mean, it's almost 3 years. You have been more than 3 years, right? I'm sure you have already observed us as a social media consumer. So how vulnerable we are for this and misinformation? I mean, as a society. Last time you were mentioning your father as a good example. Starting from that, let us observe our vulnerability.
So as I said, it's really interesting that most people don't use social media but still
yet
affected
still be
by
affected by the
affected by it.
consequence,
I mean, so I mean, I'm not saying it doesn't have an impact, but it's really interesting to know how it's connected. So as I said, my dad is my example every time, even in trainings, everywhere. He's famous by now.
Yeah,
Of me. Yeah.
more than you.
Yeah, obviously, yeah. He should be proud. So, no, of me for making him famous. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he uses Facebook and YouTube to get information about anything. He was like a couple of years ago, he was the kind of person that don't want to listen to government supported medias. So he relied on YouTube and Facebook only. And he had friends who don't use social media, right? So every morning they gather around before breakfast around the neighborhood, and they ask him what's new. And he tells them everything he heard from YouTube, everything he saw on Facebook, and they're like, really? Oh my God, wow. They're really amazed. And they took it as he said. They don't question him. They might say, where did you hear it? And he'll say, Facebook. And they will say, wow.
So
Yeah.
Facebook is considered a place where we get reliable and accurate information.
And they don't know that. I don't know. They know that, but they don't usually notice or I think focus on the idea that people like us are creating the contents. I don't know how, but they usually think that Facebook is the one feeding them. So they take Facebook as a media platforms like equal to BBC or equal to EBC or whatever. So they take it as a media platform that everything that comes from Facebook is accurate or right or something like that. So usually I had to remind him like, no, people like me, people like you are creating those contents. So sometimes they do it for money, sometimes they do it for followers or influence or any reason. So you have to be careful. So he was a reflection of our society for me. I used to give training for journalists during that time or content creators and all that. And oh my God, I have to start from home. That was eye-opening for me. He even gives medical recommendations for his friends watching from
YouTube and
YouTube.
social media.
Yeah, he even takes some of it for himself. So it was eye-opening for me. I have to start from my home, and I had to tell him that he has to cross-check. He don't have to be sensitive by the content. He don't have to take action just by seeing any content and all that. So my observation of our society in general is like we have a really low media literacy and there is an information gap. I mean, people want to know about a lot of things and the media is not talking about those things, so they find
rely
any
on social media.
alternative information they get. So that gap in the low media literacy in general contributes to our vulnerability.
Creates a space for the creation and the producing of fake and misleading content.
And the impact and the potential to be believed as well.
So you raised such a good point. Of course, misleading contents, fake contents have a potential to cause harm and intensify conflicts and such. We raised such good tips we can apply when we come across some information that we think is not true, to cross-check whether the information is true or not. But there are some of us who lack the digital skill, the digital literacy to apply those tips. So let's take your father as an example. Not your father, but his friend. Okay? So if you are asked to explain about mis and disinformation to one of your father's friend, how would you do it in a very simple Amharic language? English.
So it's to cross-check or to just be skeptical?
No,
right?
To cross-check, it requires some kinds of skill, some kinds of know-how.
So to be skeptical of
any
information.
and and how they in general can be able to identify such kind of information?
Well, first I will tell them that, as I said, not everything that comes from Facebook or social media is true. They will have to understand how the media messages are even created or constructed in general, especially when it comes to social media, that people can share anything anonymously. The accountability level is really low, so they will say anything they want.
Yeah.
So they'll say anything they want for a lot of reasons, for financial reasons, political reasons, even to become influential or something like that. So they have to know that how those messages come to them. I will tell them that the video that's suggested or recommended for them is not because it's true, but it's because of the algorithm. It's because they know what they want to hear. So it's deceiving them. And also I will tell them to cross-check and to not rely to only one source. Even though there are sources that we trust, we have to cross-check. We have to question them now and then. We have to check their source. And in general, I will recommend to refrain from taking actions like as soon as we saw any content. We have to analyze it. We have to take our time. We have to cross-check before taking any action. It could be sharing to a friend, or it could be telling to someone, or it could be like taking any physical action, like moving somewhere else or anything like that. So I think the more they know about how the message is created and how the message gets to them, they will be more skeptical, because social media is becoming really messed up, and they have to understand it. And I think I will explain it in a better language.
Nice. So, as a fact checker, I'm sure it enables you to observe how mis and disinformation can intensify violence, social, economical, political instabilities, right? So what's your observation about that?
I mean, I don't know how, as I said earlier, I don't know how, but it really impacts our society. So even the farmers who don't have a smartphone, who don't have internet access, knows about what's being talked online. So it's really fascinating how it is kind of connected. But we've seen experiences where, because of social media, there were offline conflicts because of contents. In 2018 there was conflicts in different universities, and I remember I was in Ambo University during that time. So a student died in, I think, Aksum University or something like that. So he was born in Oromia. So in other Oromia regions and universities, students started fighting because of the fight. Apparently it was not a racial or ethnic violence conflict in the Aksum University, but it turns to ethnic conflict in other universities, and people died, and a lot of students was injured, died, and all that. We can also mention the northern part. There were people who died because of call to violence online, because of disinformation. There were a lot of people displaced because of disinformation, because they saw online that they are going to be attacked or something like that, or the enemy is coming, so they got displaced from where they were living, and there is nothing happened. So it really impacts, especially in fueling conflicts, and also instability in general. So there are a lot of examples in our case as well.
So as a fact checker, you've come across some funny or amazing content to verify. So do you have any example you can share with us?
So there was one video. It was during the war, as always, because most of the disinformation were peak at that time. So it was a 9 minutes and 57 seconds video, almost 10-minute video. So it shows a live war with a body cam of one of the army or the fighters, I don't know. So there is a narrator saying that, you see that man falling from the hill, he's that group and he's dying. You see how we are like winning. And
Is it in Amharic?
yeah, it's in Amharic, and it's a 10 minutes long video. So there was even some editing, like pointing out who is who on that video. You see the red sign that I put on this man, he's going to die, and he dies. And it was an active war
Fight,
video. Yeah,
active fight video.
yeah. So most people, even doctors, even journalism school teachers were deceived by that video.
Wow.
And I saw it during the night. At night, yeah. So I was very skeptical of it. So I had to check whether the video is old or something. So at first I got like a 1 minute clip of that video, but it was not a proof that all the video was from that video. So I stayed all night trying to find the whole video, because the next day I had a training, and I had to sleep, but I didn't, because I was so curious, and I had to do it. So it took me really long to find the whole video, but apparently the video was taken from the Yemen war.
A conflict in Yemen.
Yeah, the conflict in Yemen. So only the narration was made in Amharic, but the other whole content, I found it in one website showing that news. So it took me a very long time. But it's one of the fact checks I'm proud of.
What about the landscape, by the way? Wasn't it like
it was similar to us.
Really?
It says the conflict is in the upper front, and it's kind of like deserty
area,
and the hills and everything was kind of similar. So I even tried to check the plate numbers of the cars, but the video was not that high quality too. So I couldn't identify what it said. Even their uniform was not that much identifiable. I tried like every details.
Techniques
everything. I knew it was not right, but I couldn't find the proof.
Yeah, your gut tells you that it's not right, but
I know.
Usually it's one of the tips we give for identifying false information. Trust your gut. Trust your common sense is one of the tips.
Does it
actually
work all the time?
No, because people are biased. Their gut is biased usually, but it's not to take actions, but to cross-check more. Your gut will help you whether to believe the information right or not. If your gut says it's false, you have to check it whether it's true or false. Not to believe it.
The other, actionable techniques to verify information. For random social media users.
For users, I usually suggest cross-checking from other medias, other platforms. Analyzing the content by itself can give them answers, like whether one of the most deceiving content in Ethiopia is false connection and false context. For false connection, you just have to listen to the whole content or read the whole content. Usually it will give a lot of answer to just see the detail, read beyond the headline, and also to cross-check with other sources and to question the author itself. What kind of content he used to share. Is it usually biased? If it's biased and if he's taking the same side always, I have to question every information that comes from him or something like that. So the identifying tips usually give us answer. But technically to check the image or the videos or even the content, we have to cross-check with sources like from the government or from organizations like the UN or something like that, or even to use some tools for pictures and all that. Usually that's too technical for people, but by just analyzing the content, it will give them a lot of answers.
So you were mentioning times of conflicts, right? So times of conflict opens the door wide open for the creation of this misleading and fake content, right? And in such times, people also share a lot of information with intention to help others, right? So what kind of extra precaution should we take in such times?
So for people who just share the contents even to be helpful, that they could be misinformed themselves, so they have to be really critical and they have to be really sure about what they are sharing when they create any content or when they are sending any message. They have to be really sure, so they have to cross-check it before they create the message. And for people who sees some tips, I know this kind of times have the sense of urgency and all that, but
and also there will be limitation of information, right?
Of course. You need the information and you can't get it anywhere, so if anyone mentions about that issue or
you
that
just
incident,
share that content,
I will recommend hearing it from bodies or organizations that are concerned with it, but usually we don't get the right information at the right time, so it's kind of tricky. But I will always recommend to refrain from taking action based on what anyone is saying unless we analyze it and we cross-checked it and we actually believe. Or sometimes it could be asking people we know about, like we personally know about that. For example, there is a conflict in Amhara region. There are a lot of YouTube videos coming from YouTube channels.
Different channels.
And the government is saying like everything is okay, don't worry, and all that. So I recommend calling to someone we know or checking from someone who's there to kind of balance. Not everything that person is saying
true,
may not be true, but we should just balance hearing from different side of the story. I think that's the only solution. Otherwise, I don't think they shouldn't take action, or they should. It depends on the situation, I guess.
Remember during the time of COVID, so pretty much I get a lot of remedies for the vaccine. If it was for those mis and disinformation, I'm sure COVID would not last. How long it lasted.
I mean, people drank alcohol and sanitizer because Trump told them. So it's really
but I mean, to encounter mis and disinformation, I believe that verifying informations are very powerful, right?
Yes.
And that's why I was asking you, how can we easily verify informations? But after we verified, what steps we should take?
Okay, sometimes we verify the content and we see that it's false, or it has false framing or whatever.
We realize that the content is not true.
It's not true, right? So usually people still react to it or still share it or still even comment.
And saying this is not true.
But usually the algorithm doesn't understand it like that, and it counts it as an engagement and interaction, so it will recommend for other networks and all that. So I recommend reporting it, because by reporting we are saying that we don't like this kind of content, or this content should be checked. By reporting we are protecting our network and people who live around us, even in location, physical location. And also by reporting we are sending for professionals to cross-check it further. So if it's true, the platforms will take different action. It depends on the platforms. Sometimes the post would be removed, sometimes the algorithm will be changed, sometimes there will be a label saying this information is false. So reporting is the best long-term solution, not long-term, but the best action to take, and also to refrain from sharing it, especially when we know it's false. People do that a lot. They share anyways. Have you seen this false information?
Yes. Even they screenshot the content and send it to their friend saying this information is false.
But everything that we are doing, or every action, especially we took online, are registered, and the algorithm usually takes it as an interaction, as an engagement, as liking it or being interested. So it will affect the kind of content we see in the future. It will affect the kind of content our network sees and all that. So the best action can be that.
Reporting. So reporting is when we come across such information, right?
Yeah.
But is there a way, or is there tips that you can tell us to stay safe while navigating the social media? What can we do as a social media user? What can we do to avoid such kinds of misleading content, this misleading information?
Yeah, as I said, usually most people don't understand that the algorithm is feeding them. So we have to trick the algorithm in a way that we have to...
I like the term, trick the algorithm.
Yeah.
Please explain on that.
So it's news feed, right?
Yeah.
Even the word is like, it's feeding us.
Yeah.
So we have to gather ourselves. We have to go to the sources to get the information, not wait until they come, usually, because after 300 interactions, it will just be out of our control. So we have to
300 interaction.
Yeah.
Is it same in
300
all?
likes?
Sorry.
In general, I think
In
it's
general,
different
alright.
for different social media. I mean,
Platforms? Alright.
not only the likes count, but after like 300 interactions and likes, the algorithm thinks it
My
knows
interest,
you. Yeah, it
my
knows your
interest,
interest or what you want to hear or
Alright.
something like that. So after some time, it's out of our control in general.
Yeah.
It's one of the factors can be the, as I said, the like and interaction, but there are other factors.
The amount of seconds we spend.
We spend
Yeah.
on
Watching
one
the
content,
post,
even
yes.
the frequency we sign in or log in, even how long we stayed online is also another factors. Even
Interesting.
the interest of people who live around us
Yeah,
offline.
I have
Yeah.
Even the
observed
location.
that.
I
Yes,
mean,
yes.
if you search what's happening in Ethiopia when you are in Addis, and if you search what's happening in Ethiopia when you are in the US, the answer you get will be kind of different. Because the answer you get will be based on what the people around you is looking
Searching
for or
and
searching
looking
and
for.
all that. So we have to be careful of what we see, what we spend our time on. We have to, as I said, that's how we trick the algorithm. We have to even go to sources ourselves, not wait for them. Like I don't have to wait for a news to come from BBC. I just have to go there, or I don't have to wait for some other media to come to me. Because that's how we cross-check, right? We are to cross-check, I have to go to the medias.
Yeah.
So we have to do it manually, not wait for the algorithm to feed us. We have to be careful of our interactions. Let's say we're saying, no, the information is not true on the comments, but we have to still report it to trick the algorithm in general.
Yeah.
So I think tricking the algorithm
requires some kinds of understanding about
know
the
how,
digital world.
yeah. As I said, the first thing I would tell my father's friend is how social media works, so that after that, most people change how they use it.
Yeah.
Usually, before like a couple of years, when I give trainings, I just go right into fact checking, do this, do that. But recently, I started telling them about algorithms, and most of the action people take after that is really different. It's kind of fascinating. So I think knowing how it works will be the best solution. Even in media literacy, the first step is access, right? There are 5 elements, and the first element is access. When we say access, we're not saying just having the internet or having the phone or the computer. Access is understanding how the platforms work, how the technology works, how we should use it, and how it works in general. When we know that step or fully, or when we have that skill of knowing how it works, the other step will be easier.
Much easier.
And the analyzing, the content creation, the action we take, every step is easier when we know about what we are getting into. So, yeah.
Yeah, that would be
Nice, interesting.
yes, very nice. So that was for today.
Yes.
So today we were with Rehobot Ayalew, a well-known fact-checker in Ethiopia, and we discussed about how online mis and disinformation comes, things and tips we can apply to avoid such kinds of information. Thank you, Rehobot, for your time.
Thank you for having me, as always.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for listening and watching us. If you have comments, you can reach reach us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and also podcast platforms. Rehobot, thank you so much again for coming. This is all for today. Ciao.